Alright everybody, I'm here with PBM, Sam for Soccer, and Panda Cat support, jungler, and ADC respectively for Ghost Gaming. First off, how are all you guys doing? PBM, I'll make it easy on you. You can go first. How are you today?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing just fine, man. Thank you very much. Sam, how about you? How are things over there for you?
Yeah, not too bad. Yeah, nothing too special, but
Can't complain. Round it all out, Panda Cat. How's life treating you at the moment?
It's alright. I just woke up like 20 minutes ago, so it's okay.
Hey, I feel that. I was about an hour ago. We did some balance, right? Groggy-eyed balance. Nothing can go wrong there. No iffy decisions to be made at all.
never.
I do want to start though, maybe along that same thread. Is everyone at the house currently? Panda Cat, you look elsewhere. So what's the current housing status for you guys?
I'm in New York at home. I would be down in Georgia, but with like COVID and everything, and with
Yes.
the games being online, I'm just home. I don't think there's a reason for me to be down there.
Were you up in New York all of Phase 1 as well?
Yeah, and then I came down for MSI. So
Gotcha.
I'll probably come
Nice.
down again if there's anything like crucial, but until then, I'll just be here.
Well, I guess that's an interesting kind of point to maybe discuss then. Do you think that's really affected things one way or the other, being in the house versus not being in the house?
Personally, I don't think it's that big a deal. I think if you're like coming up in a tournament, it might be like a better
Right.
time when you're all together in person and whatnot. But for like league games, I don't think it really matters too much.
No, fair enough. So I guess PBM is the rest of the squad over in the Ghost House then down here in Georgia.
Alec is in a similar spot where fine okay. He's also
Right.
at home in Florida, but yeah, the other four of us are at the house.
So I guess for the four of you that are in the Ghost House at the moment, just sort of a vibe check-in for you guys. How has quarantine been for you guys? I mean, I guess things starting to slowly sort of open themselves back up, I guess. But compared to last year, all the team living in a house, have you noticed sort of a different feeling with the way things have been given the current situation?
Well, for me at least, I definitely have noticed that, well, just playing the games is of course less
Right.
fun to do that online than in person, but
Sure.
other than that, yeah, when everything was completely shut down, it was a little rough. Like I would personally just I would just go for walks or do whatever. That was about the most I could really even do to get out of the
Sure.
house or do anything. And now that things are like, I'll like cautiously go to the gym or like have a mask
Right.
or whatever. But yeah, other than that, it's still basically the same thing. Just kind of like Smite and just kind of getting along with each other.
That's good, I guess. I mean, all things considered, could be, I guess, a lot worse given the current circumstances. So I guess kind of along that vein, you got the four of you guys in the house. Sam, is there anything that you guys try to do, any sort of team bonding that goes on, or is it a lot of Smite and everyone just kind of decompressing, doing their own thing?
I'd say more people doing their own thing. Kind of just play a lot of ranked. Maybe a little chess recently.
Decompressed playing ranked. I don't know. Is that the right way to go
Yeah.
about it?
Always did. Can never hit enough Qs.
You're preaching to the choir here. I've actually given up on ranked. I lost like 10 games on day one of the reset and haven't played since. So
That is just a
that's my
mistake.
ranked set. Yeah, just a horrible mistake, purely a misplay on my part. Unlucky, unlucky through and through. Maybe you look back though at Phase 1. We're obviously already a couple of games here into Phase 2, but you guys are near the top of the standings going into the mid-season tournament, and then you win the mid-season tournament. So Panda Cat, maybe compared to team-long, year-long goals, how important was kind of the Phase 1 and the mid-season tournament to you guys at the end of the day?
I think it was really nice to win the midseason tournament. I don't think it's like as big a deal because everyone's just playing for Worlds, right? But just like a
Right.
team boost. Obviously, we were playing with the new roster with Sam, and just winning the first tournament that was available to us, or like just available for the league, is a big like confidence boost for the five of us. And I'd say it did kind of propel us into Phase 2 in a nice way, so we can be a little bit more lenient the first couple of weeks. We don't have to be as try hard.
Right.
But in general, we're just playing for Worlds, so.
You still started off 2-0, so try hard or not, it's a great start to Phase 2. We'll get to that. in a little bit, though. Sam, kind of to bounce off of that, though, how long would you say it took to really get in the swing of things with this team? Obviously, coming into a new roster, how lengthy of a time did that sort of look like for you?
I mean, for the team as a whole, I'd probably say it took us maybe like a couple weeks to a month, maybe, before we like worked out like a couple kinks and
Right.
things here and there. But I don't know. I still think we're still improving on stuff that we have like made mistakes on, and
Right.
especially with the new meta, still like a lot of improvements. So I guess we're still working them out, maybe a little.
Right, always room to improve. It's a great way of looking at it, and maybe along that thread, Mike, a very successful Phase 1, all things considered. All the accolades I listed just a moment ago. Is there anything specifically, maybe that the team has kind of latched onto as, all right, we really need to work on this aspect of our game moving into Phase 2?
For me, it's always kind of been unforced errors. That's kind of just silly decision making or just sloppy plays, lazy backing, just like not identifying when the other team has an advantage over you. That's kind of always been the thing that I'll try to harp on, just because I want to limit how many opportunities the enemy teams have against us. So that kind of just takes time and like discipline, which is kind of hard to do when you're scrimming, because every team kind of has a tendency to run it down a little bit in scrim. So yeah, that'd be my main thing.
Sure, fair enough. Panda Cat, Sam, you guys have any different thoughts on that? Anything you think the team needs to improve on despite a very successful Phase 1?
Personally, I don't think so. I think we should work on our drafts a little bit more sometimes, but in terms of like anything that we really have to work on, I don't know. Just be more serious on game day, or be more serious on the days leading up to game day. Maybe a little bit more productive in scrims and whatnot. But in terms of like playing, I don't know if there's anything we've been like too bad with or like need to harp on.
Yeah. I don't think a lot of people would disagree with you after what we saw. Sam, you about to say something or no?
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe like objective play, aside from like what was already mentioned. But I think objectives are just in a weird spot now with the changes. So
yeah, fair enough.
Maybe we can get a little better on those. Yeah.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of interesting play around objectives, to say the least here, given the meta, and that kind of springboards us here into Phase 2. Kind of looking at Phase 2 as a whole. It's longer. You play every team 3 times. Anyone, if you have a thought on this, feel free to jump in. Do you think the longer phase, playing every team 3 times, changes all that much, or is it just you just got to play them once more, and there's not really a dynamic shift?
I personally just think that teams are going to have to balance their mentals a little bit harder. Like, just really make sure that they're not burning themselves out and trying to just take. It's really easy if you're a team struggling. It's really easy to lose a lot of confidence very quickly, and if you let that go over through the rest of the phase, I think that's just a really dangerous thing. So I think just everybody trying to take it in stride will be important. And then for me personally, I'm just going to use it to try more things. Like already in our first couple sets, we've played a couple characters that I guess it's different because the split just started, but that we didn't necessarily scrim with. And it just like looked good in that situation, in that draft. So I'm personally going to be a lot more willing to try things like that. We're just on game day. We're just like, hey, let's see how this feels, because a match will always be better practice than scrims, just because everybody's trying their absolute hardest. So that's how I personally see it.
How about you, Panda? Sam, do you think the longer phase makes any noticeable difference, playing every team, once more?
Take it away, Sam.
Yeah, sure. I don't really think so, honestly. I think maybe you have more room for like mistakes, like losing sets or whatever. But outside of that, I think it's pretty similar. Like, unless you stayed like playing the same way throughout the whole phase, then like maybe it would change like your third set by then. But I think like you're probably constantly changing how things are going, so probably be the same. You maybe should have more like room for error though.
Right. Do you think, Panda Cat, there's a world? Okay, go ahead.
I was just gonna piggyback off what Mike said, where you just have to be able to like stay in it mentally. It's a lot of games, so just being able to like keep a clear mind even after losses or even after wins, because you still have so many more games to play. It's a big deal.
Yeah, I think that's such an interesting point that me and a lot of the other casters have been talking about, where we sort of look at some of the teams that have struggled right out of the bat, and we say, well, they have a longer phase, they can really get things, they have more time to get things on track, but that also means by the time we've reached that mid-phase point, you could also be in a much deeper hole that you have to dig yourself out of. So I think that's going to be kind of a fun dynamic. Now we get to talk a little bit about the meta, though, that we've seen so far here in Phase 2. I feel like we have seen kind of a variety of where some of these carry games come from. Does anyone have a strong opinion on what you think the strongest role is at the moment, where the highest carry potential is at the moment in the current meta?
Mid all day.
Really? You think it's
Meta
mid?
says mid.
It's mid all. It's mid jungle.
I think it's jungle. I think Sam's role's broken.
Yeah,
Sam, do you agree?
Sure, why not?
Why do you guys think that? What makes jungle so strong?
For me, I just think that they have a lot of I just think that the new item changes and the new item additions as well makes a lot more characters viable than ever before. I think jungle has kind of been in a spot the past couple years where you could play a lot of things, but now I think you can play a lot of things. I think they're all pretty good. I don't think there's if you look at a draft, it's very rare to see an assassin get top 3 banned, for example, compared to other roles. And I think other roles have a few characters that are really dominant if they get let through. But I just think the jungle role as a whole, you could play a ton of different characters and a ton of different styles. Well, maybe not styles so much anymore, but I just think there's a ton of viable characters, and you just gank my lane, and then you own the rest of the game, and the game's over, and that's it.
Fair enough, Sam. Is it just that simple? What are some strong what are some strong gods items that you think come out of the jungle?
Well, I think that if jungle is the best role, it's probably because of the camp changes being tankier, where maybe mids can't take all your farm now. They rely on you a little, so they gotta split it. But yeah, I think the meta itself's in a really good spot for jungle because you can kind of play anything.
Right.
Whether it's auto attack junglers with Golden Blade or ability based junglers just do really good, and then there's you can play warriors too. I think Sino is, although I guess he's retired those.
I was gonna say that was kind of the springboard question. Is it time to put the warrior jungle meta to bed and move on back to the assassins?
I think there's still some viable ones. I got a little Mulan game in there,
That's true. You're right. You did, and it looked pretty good there. We also saw Mulan in support. I thought was somewhat interesting over the weekend. And I guess maybe to that point, we can go over to you, PBM. I'm gonna come to each of you. Sam, you've kind of already answered this question. Where you see your role at the moment, kind of in the current meta. I know there's been some thoughts or maybe lack of thoughts on big changes kind of in the support meta to you, PBM specifically. Who do you think's strong? What's some itemization that seems to be sort of at the forefront of your role at the moment?
So for my role, the biggest change was honestly just Hecate getting released and a lot of other gods getting a lot more damage. Learning what new spots I'm dead that I wasn't dead before in is really fun. Sure. I don't know. I think some characters with Sledge can be really interesting. I think that gives you the ability to go for a power spike item and try to snowball a little bit harder. Spear the Magus got nerfed in the bonus update, but I think previously that was a really good, if you're going to go damage item, it could help facilitate your team pretty hard.
Right.
Binding got a buff. So yeah, I just think there's a lot of... I think support is probably the most flexible role in the game. I think that you can just see by the players, the way myself and Aurora play, for example, will be different than the way that Raffer plays, which is different than the way Rangi plays. I think a lot of characters are viable and a lot of things are strong. I think the one that seems to be pretty unanimous is Yamoja, but past that, I just think that a lot of characters can be good, and it just depends on the team.
Is Thebes first still the move on almost everyone?
A lot of games probably. I mean, the thing with Thebes is it's just consistent. It's hard to screw up 60 of each prots, but I think you could go for alternative options. I think Like, if they have like a 4 Fizz or 4 Magical, going like a Salve or a Heartward is still fine.
Right.
Going Sledge if you want a Power Spike is fine. Same thing with Binding. Just kind of depends on the game.
Yeah, I'm taking notes because I have no idea what to build and support, so I appreciate you there. Down to you, Panda Cat. This I figure will be pretty fun to talk about. The Hunter role at the moment, what do you think is strong? Obviously Magical ADCs were a big talking point here this weekend. What gods, what item do you think are at the forefront of the Hunter role at the moment?
In an ideal world, you just want to pick any Magical ADC that can build Hecate and use it well, just because of how strong the item is. I think post-nerf, it's going to be a little bit of a different story with the healing removed. It was a big deal. I tried it out on the PTS. You could definitely feel it. But right now, you get the ring online, and then every hunter that could box you before just can't. And then warriors can't kill you because you're taking their power, increasing your own. Tanks are hard to dive, or it's hard to dive you as a tank because you just do way more damage. And I don't know. It's kind of devolving into a meta that I don't think people are going to want to watch. And I personally don't want to play in. But thankfully, they're removing the healing from the ring and probably going to nerf it a little bit more. So hopefully people will start playing like Uller and Heim and gods like that again. So that's what I think at the moment.
Yeah, we don't have Final K here to talk about Hades' Ring of Hecate solo lane or whatever that was. It works, I suppose. I guess maybe to your point then, if the Magical ADCs are all banned out, or the one is picked away from you, Heimdall is still seeing a lot of presence in the ban phase. Is it still the Jingwei, Uller? I guess we haven't really seen Hou-Yi, maybe Hachiman once or twice. Is it kind of standard, all things considered, outside of the Magical ADCs?
Yeah, I think from this split to the last split, the top hunters didn't really change too much. I mean, like Heim got some nerfs, but I don't think it affected his placement on the tier list. And besides that, it's just like team picks / comfort picks. Like some teams are more pressure oriented, some teams are less pressure oriented, so they'll pick Jing or Hachiman. Some people pick Uller or Heim. So it just depends on what you want out of the carry in general.
Failnaught and Atalantis when do I build them?
Failnaught, I've seen a lot of people building on cooldown oriented hunters, like Cupid. I saw it on. Neath, I saw it on a lot. You can build it on Uller if you want, maybe on her. Atalantis, in many cases, is just a straight up replacement for Executioner. So wherever you were building Executioner, you could just plop in Atalantis and you'll be good to go pretty much.
Fair enough. It's strong. Those are certainly starting to get built a lot more. PBM, quick, maybe not easy one over to you. Cthulhu, support or solo? Where do you put them in your mind?
Ooh.
You don't have to, if this is revealing stuff, you don't have to.
No, it doesn't matter what I say. I mean, people who play against me will be able to tell. I kind of think he's trash support. I think he's a much better solo laner than he is support. He's just he was good support for sure, but he got 3 rounds of nerfs before he even was available in the SPL. There was a bonus update after he was released, got nerfed. Then the real patch, he got nerfed. And then another bonus update, he got nerfed. So, all the things that made him good support, they kind of tweaked a lot of them. Right. So I just think he's a laner now.
Yeah, Final K would agree with us, I think, after what we saw here this weekend. That was such a fun kind of topic of debate I think we all had watching sort of, we've seen him in support once or twice. He kind of dominates out of the solo lane. So I don't think that's necessarily any breaking news. I don't think you've revealed all that much from what we saw this weekend. Sam, over to you. Do you think that the current meta and maybe the jungle being far and away the most superior role, the easiest to carry from, all the above, do you think that benefits your team's playstyle?
I don't know if it's far and away the best role, but
not even close. Not even close. It's the easiest too.
I think it's pretty good for us. I mean, I think I'm pretty good, but I just think any meta we can play in, right? So I don't really think it matters too much. I don't know if I'd say it benefits us over other teams, maybe.
Right. Well, all right. Well, either PBM or Panda. Outside of the maybe jungle status in the meta, do you think all the gods we've listed, sort of the flow of the game, the pace of the game at the moment? Do you think that's something that benefits you guys?
For sure. I think actually a lot of this meta is most of our like comfort picks.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. I feel like most of the gods that are being banned or picked we're all like really good at or like relatively good at, to the point where like
Right.
we're all comfortable picking whatever the gods are. Whereas some teams, force bans on other teams simply because they refuse to play gods, or maybe just
Right.
aren't good at them. We saw that
Right.
with like we played like Awesome Jake last season or last split, and he just didn't want to play like a game of emoji and whatnot, and that can definitely hinder teams a lot. But I don't think we're in that spot relatively ever. Honestly, I feel like most of the times we could just play whatever's meta.
Yeah, near unstoppable for you guys here this weekend. All right, kind of
Yeah.
rounding things out here. Yeah, you like the sound of that, and I assume
Yeah.
Ghost fans will as well. Mike, kind of rounding things out here. Teams are improving. I mean, I think right now it maybe is a lot of teams trying to figure out where they stand in the meta, what's good, what's bad, things like that. We've sort of talked about maybe some of the differences a longer phase will make. Do you think, and this might be tough to do you think phase 2 will be closer, more competitive maybe than phase 1 was?
I actually
more of the
think
same?
that with more games, you'll see a bigger disparity between teams. Actually, I think that there was a bit of a drop off between, like Sanguine, for example. I think they're still relatively new to the SPL. I think if they continued the same trajectory, I think you'll see a bigger gap between them and teams like, say, United, for example, who are like more like bottom 4, but not a bad team by any means. So yeah, I just kind of think that over a longer split that you'll see teams kind of like separate themselves a little bit, and there'll be more
Right.
clear, I guess, like power rankings, whatever you want to call it.
Right, fair enough. All right, I'm gonna go around the horn here. Take as much or as little time as you want. What do you think the Ghost final placement will be here in phase 2? Not considering like the end of season tournaments, anything like that. Purely standings wise, I know players love to answer this question. PBM, where do you think Ghost finishes out the phase?
Purely for sentimental reasons, I'd like to get a first seed because Max and I have had like a first seed split every year.
Yeah.
So I'd like to keep that tradition going. And if we don't, I'm going to be really pissed. Sam?
Yeah, really,
Oh, fuck,
really
man.
pissed.
I was gonna say
Sam?
second, but I guess I gotta change my answer.
Second or first, maybe from Sam Pandacat to echo the first place sentiment here after phase 2.
Yeah, I'm gonna say first place, and I'm winning world. So yeah, I'll just do with that.
First place
information.
and a world's win, says Panda Cat.
Yeah.
Hey, absolutely attainable for you guys. You're playing lights out at the moment. Cannot wait to see what phase 2 has in store. I appreciate all three of you for sitting down with me a little bit this morning. Thank you everyone at home for watching. We'll see more of Ghost Gaming in phase 2 of the SPL.